Welcome to MrClaff.com's review of the Legislative Branch, brought to you by Noble Review, Concise Review Books. The Great Compromise of the Constitutional Convention provided for a bicameral or two-house legislature where the Senate would have equal representation and the House of Representatives would be based on population. Since the House is based on population, districts can be reapportioned every 10 years after a census, or detailed population count, is taken. If population goes up enough, your state will get more representatives and more electoral votes. Sometimes the parties in power of the state legislatures draw weird squiggly lines so they can control more districts. This is called gerrymandering. However, if states draw lines too crazy, courts can step in. As seen with Baker versus Carr, the federal courts can force redrawing of lines. Congress has certain delegated or enumerated powers which can be found in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. They can do big things like declare war, coin money, regulate interstate commerce, and create a postal service. The Constitution can grow over time. Congress has the power to use the elastic clause. This permits them to do anything seen as necessary and proper. In other words, through loose interpretation of the Constitution, Congress can extend its power. These powers are also called implied powers. You should know some differences between the House and the Senate. The term in the House is 2 years, while the Senate is 6. One must be 25 years old to be a rep, while 30 to be a senator. All revenue or money bills start in the House. The Senate ratifies treaties and confirms presidential appointments. The House can determine a deadlock presidential election. The House impeaches while the Senate convicts. The House has 435 members while the Senate only has 100. The Senate is less formal than the House in terms of its rules. The House is closest to the people, as one couldn't even vote for a senator until the 17th Amendment was ratified in 1913. The House is led by the Speaker of the House. While the Vice President is supposed to preside over the Senate, a President pro tempore does this in the VP's absence. Also important to know are majority and minority leaders and whips, who lead the parties in rounding up votes. Most congressional work is done in committees or subcommittees. Standing committees are the permanent groups of Congress where most of the work gets done. Committees are led by a chairperson, who is chosen by secret ballot, though it's usually a senior member of the majority party. Important standing committees to know are the Ways and Means of the House, which recommends how to raise money through taxes and tariffs. The House's Rules Committee is the traffic cop of Congress and decides how bills come to the floor. The Appropriations Committee determines how the government spends its money. Besides standing committees, there are sometimes select or special temporary committees which study specific issues, joint committees which are comprised by House and Senate members who research together, and conference committees which look to find compromises on bills. For business to be conducted, each House needs to take a roll call to establish a quorum, or that a majority is present. For a bill to become a law, it has to be passed by each House and then signed by the President. Let's assume a bill starts in the House's hopper. It's taken up by a committee or subcommittee, researched, analyzed, and studied. The Rules Committee decides how amendments are added. A closed rule prevents a bill from having amendments. An open rule allows amendments. A restrictive rule permits only certain amendments. After being debated, there's a vote. If it passes, the bill goes to the Senate, where the process starts all over again. If a bill passes both houses, it goes to the President's desk for signature. If the President doesn't like the bill, it can be vetoed. Unlike a state governor who has a line item veto where certain parts of a bill can be killed, a President's veto kills the entire thing. If Congress wants to, they can override a veto with a 2/3 vote. Most bills never make it out of each house. Vetoes are not the norm, and they are very rarely overridden. Until 1983, Congress could put provisions into laws which gave them legislative veto power to destroy executive decision-making. But this was found unconstitutional. In addition to laws, Congress can pass resolutions. Simple resolutions only affect one house and is usually something regarding procedure. Concurrent resolutions express sentiments of both houses. Both of these don't have to be signed by the President. Joint resolutions carry the weight of law and must be signed by the President. There are some legislative techniques you need to know about. Log rolling is where politicians promise to vote for each other's bills. Members often caucus together or stick together with people of the same interest. Riders are irrelevant provisions which are tacked onto popular bills with the hopes that they will pass. If a bill passes with a lot of riders, it's known as a Christmas tree bill. Pork barrel legislation benefits only certain districts, often with public works projects such as building bridges and roads. Earmarks are when a spending bill allocates money for something specific. In the Senate only, there's no limit on debate, so if a minority party thinks they will lose a vote, they can filibuster or speak as long as possible to delay a vote. The Senate can vote for cloture when 3/5 of them agree to end the filibuster. A technique used by incumbents, or those already elected, is the franking privilege, which allows them to send out mass mailings to communicate with constituents. This usually just turns into free campaigning. Congress has the help of staff agencies, or independent and nonpartisan employees who work with Congress to make sure the government is working smoothly. The Congressional Budget Office helps compile data on spending and costs. The General Accounting Agency investigates how the federal government spends taxpayer money. The Congressional Research Service is part of the Library of Congress and provides policy and legal analysis. With its power of legislative oversight, the legislative branch can look over the shoulder of the executive branch to make sure federal workers are doing what they're supposed to be doing. The legislative branch can check the other branches by increasing the size of courts, impeaching officials for treason, high crimes, and misdemeanors, ratifying treaties, and confirming presidential appointments. Often, there's a divided government, as party polarization takes over, where political parties continue to vote against each other. This can happen within one house or between the houses. Such gridlock can lead to very little getting done. For a review of the other branches, click here. For more review, you can get free flashcards and review sheets at MrKlaff.com. We also invite you to check out Noble Review in both paperback and ebook formats. Best of luck on your tests.